Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's Mike Ames Show. I am joined by Gin Boy Mike. Is that who we are today? Why are we Gin Boy?
We are Gin Boy because a client flew all the way from Belfast yesterday to spend the day with me, hopefully being fabulous. Well, I hope so. And
Obviously.
he completely didn't need to, but he bought me a bottle of gin as a gift from the airport.
He
So I
must
just want to
really know
say,
you.
if any of my clients are out there listening, I do take on gin, just saying as gifts, just putting that out there.
Fair enough, fair enough. And of course, we are joined by the fantastic Helen Phillips today. Hello, Helen. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you, Kirsty. Looking forward to this.
I think we all are, because it's one thing that none of us have enough of, and that is time. And so we're all very excited to learn about this. And I did have one question before we kind of get stuck in, which was, how did you become so good at time management? How did you get into it?
Well, I think it was because I was just so rubbish at it, to be honest. I know all about the different time management systems because I've tried them all. And so I sort of made it a bit of a mission to try and understand different ways of doing things and find the ones that work for me.
Perfect.
And you work with lots of different types of clients. So presumably the system you're going to share with us, it's simple, but you have to kind of bend it a little bit and adjust it to people and the way they implement it and use it.
Yeah, so everybody's different in terms of how they approach things, and I've got clients who are very systematic, and I've got clients who are completely higgledy-piggledy, and so although the basic principles are the same, you just have to find a method that works for each one of them.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I know we're all very excited to get stuck into it. I am going to ask anybody who's watching already, can you let us know in the comments if you already use a time management system, or if you are, I think as Helen so delightfully called it, more higgledy-piggledy. I would very much like to know if you could pop it in the comments for us. So, right, let's get sort of stuck in, which is, there are a lot of people who struggle with time management and find themselves kind of in a higgledy-piggledy mess. Why is that, Helen? What are sort of the main causes of being bad at time management?
So either we just get lost in the stuff that we really love to do,
Mm-hmm.
or we get really focused on customer service and we think, well, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. And then before you know it, you haven't got the time left to do the things that are really important. So we're focusing on urgent rather than important a lot of the time.
Like kind of
Can
chasing
I
your
just
own
say a
tail.
few words on indulgence? Because I
Your big
am the
one.
most indulgent person you know. I'm attracted by interesting things and things I might like, and they're not always the things I should be doing. Have you got any comments on that, Kirsty, or you just want
No, I think this one by Gavin. That's mine too, Gavin. So this is why I'm watching this show. But my
Turns
time
out,
management.
Gavin, my time management is in your head as well, so I
Mm.
don't know how that works. It's a big mess, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
But
But I think
I think this
indulgence is big.
indulgent piece is really, really important for some of us. There's some stuff I know that I shouldn't be doing, but I want to do it, so I do it. I know I shouldn't, but it's a weakness really of mine, and I can't help it. But it burns a lot of time. I've even started recording my indulgent times now. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. I have a certain colour for it. I look at my diary and think, oh no, that's been a bad week, hasn't it?
It's one of those things, though, the more you give into indulgence, the more stressful it becomes, isn't it? Because you get this sort of small. It's like eating a biscuit. It's delicious at the time, but then you think, well, now I'm going to have to run, or I'm going to have to, eat only cabbage for my dinner or something.
I just buy
Sometimes it's not
bigger
worth it.
trousers. That's
That
just
is also an option. But yeah, and then the ignorance is that I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't
yeah.
know what makes the train go faster. So what would illusion be?
Well, illusions about people, either things like, I think I'm the best person to do this because I can do it better, so it must be quicker for me to do it.
Right.
That's one. And the other thing is that you can be busy doing things and having lots of conversations and think that you're busy, so therefore you're being very productive. But being busy is not the same necessarily as being productive and generating value for your business.
Well, I read a study that said we are only productive between 2 and 3 hours a day.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
That's not to say we're sitting around drinking tea and poncing about or anything. It's to do with doing
Speak
stuff
for
that
yourself,
doesn't really matter.
So speak for yourself, poncing around and drink your tea.
Oh yeah, I am one of those great poncers. Everybody knows that.
That's true.
This is why people buy me gin. Obviously, I can't. There it is. Yeah. Just reminding that people buy me gin. But but I think this illusion is quite a big deal, really, because like stand aside, I'll do it, or I'll do that. I can just get that done. All of those are your enemies, aren't they?
Well, I'm the only one that can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, you aren't. You're the only one that can do it like you, but maybe the way you do it isn't the right way. Who knows?
Isn't the most efficient, isn't the
And
better?
then, of course, the other thing is obligation, which is a big deal. We do something because someone tells us to, our boss or somebody we owe a favor, or a client or somebody tells us, and we think, well, I shouldn't really be doing that, but we just do it. We don't push back. We don't really engage at all. And those are all enemies, I think, big enemies, aren't they, Helen?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly through my career, I had this sort of real aversion to saying no to anything. And part of it's born out of the sort of desperate desire to help people and support people. And then there's the sort of kind of thing, well, if I say no this time, is that going to impact on my, my credit with them in the future? And actually, if you say no more often, people respect you for that.
I think you're right. I was just going to try and lighten the moment and say, I can help you with that. Would you like to buy me a bottle of gin? No.
Contract mine today. I mean, there's no tonic involved either.
We were talking about this morning, and I've done a lot of coaching sessions this morning, and the ability to say, well, no, I can't do that, or I can do that, but I can't do that now, is actually the second best thing that client wants to hear. The first best is, yeah, I can do that, and I'll take that assignment on, and I'll do it for you. But there's no sense taking it on and then not delivering, or delivering it late or patchy. The second best thing is to say, I'd like to do that, but I can't with the time that I have available, so I can leave it. Or if it's your boss, it's, well, I can do that, but I'm going to need to suspend something else I'm doing. What would you like me to do? It's a recognition that you've only got so much time in the week, really.
Yeah.
And you need to invest that, as we're going to talk about in a second, in the thing that's going to give you the most value. And the ability to say, well, no, I can't do everything for everybody is, I think, a big step forward.
I think the big realization for me was that I can choose how I spend my time. And
yes, Helen, such a powerful thing. And like you said earlier, urgent is not necessarily important. It's not necessarily a priority just because it's urgent.
No.
Yeah.
It's that Stephen Covey thing, isn't it? Urgent, not urgent, important, not important. And we spend too much time in the not important boxes, whether they're urgent or not. And really, it should be important, urgent, important, not urgent, where you spend your time. But of course, that means you know what important means, doesn't it? Which, for some people they do, some people they don't. I think there is that, goes back to that ignorance, which is one of the enemies, is thinking something is useful or important or on mission, and actually it isn't.
You get very creative at this. I can find ways of making, almost making a cup of tea as being mission critical. I've got to remain hydrated, and
I need to stand up. I've been sitting too long. I need to walk around the kitchen to get those biscuits.
Absolutely.
I'll just do my emails. My emails are a big indulgence, right? So I'll just do my emails. Then when I've done that, I'll get stuck in. No, your emails aren't important, almost certainly. This thing that you need to finish by this deadline is important. So
yeah. Email management's a real big thing, and if a client says to me, "Oh, I've got to get my emails out of the way," I think, "Well, why are you allowing other people to dictate how you spend your day?"
It's funny when you say that, because I think an email can be important, but the concept of your inbox is not important, and so you kind of have to balance those two, don't you? So look at the emails. I have this kind of process thing: start at the beginning. I always start at the beginning, go to the end. And this is wrong. What you should do is scan down your emails, pick out the things that are truly important and deal with them, and leave the rest for another time. But I don't do that. I start at the top and work down, because that's the way my brain is wired up. It's rubbish. It's an indulgence.
On that, then, can we sort of look? We've figured out why people like us are perhaps not as good at time management. Can we now kind of look at the solution? Can we look at what people can do in order to improve their time management, to become more efficient, to give themselves more time?
Yeah, so
what would you say the first thing is?
Start with where you are now, I think. I use a tool called Toggle, which is free and very easy to use. And it tracks what you're spending your time on. And then you can link it to projects and customers and all sorts of other stuff. But it gives you, if you do that over a couple of weeks, it gives you a sense of how you're spending your time at the moment.
Yeah.
And And then the next thing then is to try and decide how you want to spend your time. So you have a budget for your business in terms of how you spend your money. You need a budget for how you want to spend your time.
Let's link these two together, because I think they're quite interesting. Starting with the toggle one, if I can. I've got it. It's an app. You can download the app onto your phone.
You can also use the desktop
as well, isn't there? Which I think you can put into Chrome, I believe.
Yes.
Indeed.
I've not done that. I've just got the desktop and I've got the app. And I don't do it all the time, but occasionally when I think I've lost it, and this is a way of getting back on point, I think, when I've lost it, I'll just track my time for a week.
Yeah.
Sometimes not even that long, really, but because there's a big difference between what your calendar says and what you do, isn't there? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
There is, really. And it sounds like it's a big deal, but it actually isn't. When you've set up Toggle and you've set up the categories of time that you would spend things on, it's just a click, isn't it? And it's done.
Yeah.
And it'll track. Then you start doing something, it tracks until you stop, until you do something else. So it's a really, really good tool that I would recommend everybody has as a diagnostic tool rather than a management tool to do all the time.
Yeah, and it's free. We love free. Big fan of free.
When you get it, you get 2 weeks of the paid version, which is better, to be honest. But it's worth taking the free version, to be honest. Yeah.
100%. Okay, so then when you figured that out, you kind of got, okay, I spent so many hours of my life doing this, that, and the other. You then go on and figure out what are the important things. What do you mean by that, Helen? What would you class as something that's important?
So something that's going to either generate value for your customers or take your business forward, because it's too easy to get stuck in that loop where you're constantly reacting to other people and you don't make enough time to build your business. You see it a lot with early stage businesses where they're really busy and they don't do anything to feed the pipeline, and then suddenly when one of their clients comes to a natural end, they're short of work. There's this kind of roller coaster thing. So making sure you understand this is for now and this is for next week and this is for the next 6 months or whatever, and making time for each of them.
I've seen a circle system for that in sales. So the center of the circle is making money.
Yeah.
So doing pitches, sending documents forward, bringing clients. It's directly to do with making money, really.
Yeah.
The stuff that sits around that is the activities that lead to that. So they might be connecting with people on LinkedIn. It might be asking for a meeting or that kind of things to lead to. And then the stuff that sits around that are the things that lead to the second circle. So that might be putting posts out on social media or producing content that's going to attract people that you can connect with, and yada, yada, yada. And in any job that you have, you can use a similar kind of thing, and to figure out what's important, what's in the inner circle, because that should get most of your time, shouldn't it, really?
Yeah. And then there needs to be a balance, but you've got to focus on the things that are going to make you money, and then the things that are going to make you money in the immediate future, and so on.
Yeah, Gavin made a really good comment. He says in recruitment, ask yourself 20 to 30 times a day whether what you're doing right now is going to make a placement this month. And I think that's sort of a good thing, whether it's one way or another. It's a good thing as well. It ties back. We've spoken before about mission, having a mission for your business, having a mission statement. That's sort of what it should be. Is this thing I'm doing helping me achieve my mission statement? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's how is this going to take me to my goals?
I think that's really crucial. Everything stems from what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
If you don't have a clear idea of what it is that you're trying to achieve, then you're not really going to know whether something is important or not. It's more intuitive then, and your intuition can be wrong.
And there's lots of research that says that people who set out a clear mission and goals and review it on a regular basis are much more likely to achieve it.
I think so.
Okay, so what we've done so far is we've gone through and we've figured out what we're currently doing with our time, and then we've gone through those things and said, this is important, this is less important, or whatever. What would be the next step for you to do?
Figure out how you want to spend your time.
Right.
And then what I do is I time block my diary for, so mornings generally are for spending time with clients or working on stuff for clients. Afternoons then is for relationship building. And then I put some time in the week for learning and some time in the week for doing the admin stuff. And so that means, first of all, I'm in control of my diary. So my 10 to 8 link, people can't book an appointment with me on a weekday morning, because that's my client time. And if I don't have a client appointment that day, then I'll do something else to get me a client to fill that space.
Right. Okay.
I color code my diary, and this is something Mike and I talked about earlier, because when I'm planning my time, then if I can see that my diary is getting a little bit too green or a little bit too orange, I think actually no, I need to readjust this. Because what I was finding is I would go to a networking meeting and then I'd fill up the whole of the next week with one-to-ones with people, or pointless coffees as you call them. And then suddenly I think, oh heck, what am I going to fit my clients into this? And so blocking the day and color coding it so you can see at a glance how well you're doing.
I agree.
Against your budget.
In case you don't know how to do that, it's very simple. In Outlook, you go into categories, which is at the top of everything. Categorize, it says. You go into there and you can add categories. So I've got, just to give you an example, I've got quite a few really. So I've got chargeable work, client liaison, content, indulgence, when I'm just doing something and I know I'm doing it. I've got me time, just learning and personal development, prep for chargeable work. I put that in, promotional stuff, research, sales, prep for sales, short-term support. I've got a whole bunch of stuff that I use. And then when I set a meeting up, I color code it immediately. And it's weird. I mean, I can't show it because it's got client's name on, sadly, but I've got my diary up here in front of me for the week. And it's all color coded. And I can see the balance between non-chargeable and chargeable work this week is about right. If anything, too much chargeable work. No, never say that in case the gods of fortune are listening, but a lot of chargeable work and not much time left over for doing other things. And like you, I don't work in the business Mondays and Fridays. So I only work in the business with clients on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And that discipline does help, because this is about discipline, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
When it boils down to it.
Yeah,
We've got, sorry, Helen, we've got an interesting comment here, and I wondered your opinion on it. So Nigel says that he tries to do the hardest tasks first, and then he knows his day is going to get easier and more fun. Is that something that you think you agree with? Is it something that works? What would you say about that, Pam?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. If you depends on when your most productive time of the day is, but if you start with the biggest, it's that Brian Tracy eat that frog thing, isn't it? You start with your day with the biggest, fattest, ugliest frog thing that you can do, then everything else becomes easier.
Don't look at me when you say that, Helen Phillips.
We all saw it, Dad. We all saw it. No, 100% agree with that. Okay. So, and just to reiterate on that one, with the tasks, that's going to be different to each person. But if you were to kind of give general headings for people to work on, I'm assuming one is going to be fee earning, putting money in the bank.
It's about delivery, doing what you do to get paid.
Okay, so there's going to be one about delivery. There's going to be one about sales, is there?
Filling the pipeline, yeah.
Okay, and then sort of what else would you have as potential headings, like general ones?
There's kind of ongoing development, improving your processes, your service, your learning type stuff.
Right.
And then obviously there is admin, and this comes on to one of the other points that we were talking about. It's about £10 tasks and £100 tasks.
Yeah. You mentioned this earlier to me, and for those who aren't around, can we just delve into this a little bit? Can you explain what's the difference between a 10, 100 and £1,000 task?
Yeah, so everything that you do adds value in some way to your business, and then so a £1,000 task would be something that's fee earning, something that only you can do, something that takes a long time to learn or requires your specific experience and knowledge.
Okay.
The £100 tasks are the things that do still require some skill and some experience and will add value to the business. And if you were going to pass on to somebody, then there's an element of training and development that goes on. And then the £10 tasks are the things that not anybody can do, but somebody else could do a lot quicker and cheaper than you. So bookkeeping is a classic example of something that realistically somebody else could do that. When you get to the stage that your day is too full to do the bookkeeping, send your receipts to an accountant or some bookkeeper who can do that for you much quicker than you can. And so when you're looking at how you spend your time, look at the £10 tasks and think of ways of either ditching them altogether. Do you really need to do them? And if you do need to do them, is there somebody else that could do it quicker and easier than you, to free your time up to do more of those £100 and £1,000 tasks?
Yeah. I mean, I think as well with those £10 tasks, it sort of leads into indulgence, is that they're normally really quite easy. They're normally really easy. And if you've got this big, like Nigel said, you've got this big, ugly toad, as you referred to it, and you think, no. But there's this little tiny tadpole here, and you're like, yeah, I'll do that. It's easy. And you go over here.
That's one of the reasons that to-do lists don't work, isn't it? Because your to-do list might have 20 things on it which are all £10 tasks, and you can really rip through those, and you get this huge sense of satisfaction. You know, I've put a stamp on this envelope, and I've filed that piece of paper, and before you know it, you've spent all day and you think, well, great, I've got all these tasks ticked off of my to-do list, but they're all £10 tasks and £100 tasks. And that's where the Eat That Frog thing is so valuable, is that focus on the single thing that's going to make the biggest difference to your business today, and do that first.
I mean, this brings us to the last thing, which I think is arguably the most important thing, because we all know to a certain extent, to a greater or lesser extent, what we've been talking about is what we should do, right? We don't do it, do we? I mean, that's the problem. Or we don't do it consistently. We do it for a bit and then we slip off. So what is that last thing that you think can help to really keep us on track?
You've got to get somebody else involved, I think. So whether it's somebody like us who's going to hold you to account and challenge you on things broadly rather than just how you spend your time, or whether it's just a colleague or your boss or a mate almost, is to get somebody to say to you, is that really the best use of your time, or how is doing that going to help you achieve your goals?
I mean, some people can do that for themselves, can't they?
I think they're magicians.
No, but some people can. They're very disciplined, and no, I'm not doing that. I know a number of people actually whose time management is absolutely astringent. You know, I'm not doing that because it's not the right time to do it, and they don't. Well, I say, I'll just do it. You know, can't get it off my tick list, as you say. It's on the list. Get rid of it. Get a little boost of dopamine because I've just finished a task. It's great, but they won't do that. But most of us aren't in that camp, are we? I would think.
No. It'd be lovely if we could be, but
yeah. But it isn't. And it is all about, when I work with clients that don't want to grow their business, they want to build a cash cow lifestyle business, the emphasis is making as much money out of the people that you've already got rather than adding new people to it. In other words, it's about making the most of what you've got. And time is like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of being a business, it's your time, and you want to make as much as you possibly can out of that time. And either use the spare time to make more money, or just ponce about, really. Yeah.
Ponce about making tea, isn't that what you referred to?
Make tea. Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking of playing golf, really, but whatever.
Drinking gin. Right. Okay. So in a second, Helen, I'm going to come to you and come for your final top tip. But before that, I'm just going to briefly summarize up. So we spoke about how you've got some real enemies of time management, and whether you're indulging yourself in things you shouldn't be doing, whether you're ignorant of what you should be doing, whether this illusion that the things you're doing are really important when maybe they're not as important, and there's some element of obligation with some tasks that you get drawn into things because of other people. Whatever it is, you need to make sure that you're in charge of how you spend your time, and those urgent tasks may not necessarily be the most important. And to do that, you've got a 4-step sort of process, I suppose you would describe it as. Is first of all, understand how you're spending your time currently, and Toggle is an excellent way of doing that, just registering your tasks. Then figure out what are the tasks that are important, what's going to make the boat go faster, what's going to get you your mission statement achieved, what are they? And then once you figure those out, sort of time block your day out, color code it out, figure out what you're spending most of your time on, so that if you look at your diary at a glance, Helen, like you mentioned, you can see, I'm spending too much time on networking. I've done all of this client stuff and I've got nothing that's helping the pipeline for when it ends. So you can sort of do a diagnostic at a glance. And if after that, or I think most people are going to need someone to hold them accountable. And as you mentioned, Helen, it could be someone like you or us who you pay to do that, or it could be...
No, good asking me to do that, because if you can't do it yourself, I'm not your mother. Get on with it.
It's not helpful for that. Or it could be a colleague, like a business partner or something like that. Or it could be a friend, or perhaps somebody who's got a similar business size to you but isn't a competitor, so you can converse and kind of hold each other accountable. And it's really key to sort of figure out those 10, 100, £1,000 tasks. And if it's £10, get rid of it or don't do it. £100, start planning for the future, and £1,000 is where you put your focus. Is that a fair summation of what we've spoken about today?
Oh, that was a great summary. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been practicing. Thank you. Okay, so Helen, now I'm going to come to you. So people are watching this and they're going, right, Helen, I want to start being better with my time. I've got a lot of it, and I need to be more efficient. But the process is a big step. What's the first step that people can do that eases them into the time management process?
I think the first thing is to remind yourself constantly what you're trying to achieve, and review it daily, because it just, if you can't remember, it's not that you can't remember, of course you can remember, but thinking in terms of your goals and what you're trying to achieve the next 3 months, the next 12 months, will focus your mind on what you need to do today.
Can I use my favourite phrase now? When you look at alligators, it's difficult to remember that you're there to drain the swamp.
Yeah.
And what you're trying to achieve is drain the swamp, the big picture. And the reason we don't think of it is these alligators, which could be good things or bad things, drag us into the day-to-day, don't they?
Yeah.
They drag us into, I must get that email done. I must ring so-and-so. I've got a bunch of orange stickies here, which I'm going to process today. So I've got to get all those done. But actually, it's the swamp. I'm here to drain the swamp. I'm here to build a business that's going to make me financially secure so I can retire, or whatever it is you want to do. And I think that I'm totally with that. And I don't do it enough, it's a great reminder, because that's the thing. This is what I am doing here today. And that reinforcement, I suppose, of that kind of helps, I think, because it makes you realize, well, I'm being indulgent. I'm just slowing the mission up. It's going to take longer or be more expensive to do what I want to do. So no, I'm going to be this, really. And I think that's a really, really good tip.
Yes, I do as well. And I think it's been a fantastic show today, Helen. Thank you so much for it. I've learned a lot. I'm going to get back on Toggle, I think. I'm going to start on Monday, though, because I've got a funny week the rest of the week. I don't know. But I'm going to do that next week. I'm planning for it. So before we go on to move about next week, welcome, Pam. Happy to have you. A couple of people have said that they're not getting notifications. If you found this and didn't get a notification, will you just let us know, and we'll get back onto LinkedIn and see if we can figure out. But if you do kind of accept the invitation to follow it for next week's show, it's always good. And Mike, who do we have next week? Who are we talking about? What are we talking about?
I believe we have Count Dracula and a witch actually here, because it's Halloween, I think, isn't it? Are you going to be a witch?
Oh, I found a witch. Mary Byrne. I'm going to be a cat.
Oh, okay, it's pussycat, right? Okay. Anyway, we're going to be talking about 3 ways to make yourself more effective of those sales calls. And probably the first sale call is what I'm going to zero in on, because most people find that quite difficult. I love it. I've been doing it for years, and I absolutely adore doing it. And there are lots of tricks and twists and turns that you can use to make yourself more likely to do it. I'm looking at you, Helen Phillips.
Can't think why.
Yes, and you know why. And then if you actually pick the phone up and make the call, what should you do? How can you make that more effective? It's going to be very practical, very hands-on, and I'm really looking forward to doing it. Dressed, in fact, as Count Dracula.
Yeah, and of course, with that one, it's key. Even if you know how to do it, sometimes that you've got that unconscious competence, and maybe your team members don't, or if you're looking to grow and get people in, then it might be that as well. So we're very, very excited about that. So without further ado, thank you so much to everybody who viewed today. Thank you again. Amazing thanks to Helen. You've been great today. And Mike, you with your gin, thank you as well. And we'll see everyone next week.
All the clients out there, just saying, just putting it out there. I'm always available. Thank you, Helen. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
See you next week, guys.
Yeah.